My brother made a bet that I couldn't lose 20 pounds. He said, "You've never had willpower." So I did it, and then shamed him for gaining weight at the next family reunion. He stormed out. So, here's the story about how my older brother underestimated me, and how I used his own arrogance to humiliate him in front of our entire family. This all started during a family barbecue over the summer. It was one of those hot, sticky afternoons in Goshen, Indiana, where you feel like you're sweating just from breathing. Our family is one of those big Midwestern clans that gets together way more than is necessary. Weddings, birthdays, holidays, hell, will make up reasons to gather. And, like every other family function, this barbecue was mostly about sitting around, eating too much food, and listening to my older brother Cyrus talk about how much better he was at life than the rest of us. Cyrus has always been that guy. He's the golden child, the high school hero who somehow managed to keep that same inflated sense of self-worth well into adulthood. He was the star quarterback in high school, the valedictorian, and later, the successful businessman, who made sure everyone knew about his latest promotion, his new car, or his expensive vacations. In his mind, he's the main character, and the rest of us are just extras. Me? I'm Lyndon, his younger brother by 3 years. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the kid who preferred books over sports, who never quite fit into the mold our parents set for us. I wasn't a failure or anything, but compared to Cyrus, I might as well have been invisible. And Cyrus made sure to remind me of that at every opportunity. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I've had my struggles. By the time this barbecue rolled around, I was 38 years old and not exactly in the best shape. I worked a desk job, spent way too much time in front of a computer, and, well, I wasn't what you'd call fit. I'd put on weight over the years, too many late-night snacks, too many beers, too much stress. I wasn't proud of it, but it was what it was. Anyway, the barbecue started out like any other. My mom was running around trying to make sure everyone had enough potato salad. My dad was manning the grill like it was a full-time job. The cousins were playing cornhole in the yard. And Cyrus was holding court in the middle of it all, regaling everyone with stories about his latest business trip to some fancy golf resort. I was doing my best to avoid him, but as usual, he found me. "Lyndon," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You've really let yourself go, haven't you?" I froze. I could feel every pair of eyes in the yard turn toward me. Cyrus had this smug grin on his face, like he'd just delivered the punchline to the funniest joke in the world. "You're what, 250? 260 now," he continued, laughing. "You should really do something about that." I wanted to crawl into a hole. But instead, I forced a laugh and said, "Thanks for the advice, Cyrus. I'll get right on that." He wasn't done. "You know what your problem is, Lyndon? You've never had willpower. I'll bet you couldn't lose 20 pounds if your life depended on it." Something inside me snapped. I don't know if it was the heat, the humiliation, or just years of pent-up frustration, but I'd had enough. I stood up, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "All right, Cyrus. How about this? I'll lose 20 pounds by the next family reunion. And when I do, you'll owe me $500. The yard went quiet. Cyrus raised an eyebrow, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Then he laughed. "Sure, Lyndon," he said. "Whatever you say. But when you fail, you owe me $500. Deal?" "Deal," I said, shaking his hand. And just like that, the bet was on. Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a plan. I'd tried losing weight before, and it never stuck. I'd get motivated for a week or two, maybe lose a couple of pounds, and then give up when it got too hard. But this time was different. This time, it wasn't just about me. It was about proving Cyrus wrong. And for some reason, that was all the motivation I needed. The first week was brutal. I started by cutting out all the junk food, no more chips, no more soda, no more late-night fast food runs. I swapped burgers for salads, traded beer for water, and started tracking every single calorie I ate. It was miserable. I was hungry all the time, cranky, and exhausted. But every time I wanted to give up, I pictured Cyrus's smug face at that barbecue, and I kept going. By the second week, I started adding exercise into the mix. At first, all I could manage was walking. I'd put on my old sneakers and shuffle around the neighborhood for 20 or 30 minutes a day. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And little by little, it got easier. I started walking faster, going farther, and before I knew it, I was jogging. Not far, and not fast, but jogging. By the end of the first month, I'd lost 5 pounds. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to keep me going. I started going to the gym, which was a whole new experience for me. At first, I felt completely out of place. I was surrounded by people who looked like they belonged in fitness magazines, and there I was, sweating buckets just trying to keep up on the treadmill. But I didn't care. I wasn't there for them, I was there for me. The weight started coming off faster after that. 10 pounds. 15. 20. By the time Thanksgiving rolled around, I'd lost 25 pounds, and I was feeling better than I had in years. My clothes didn't fit anymore, in a good way. People at work started noticing and complimenting me. For the first time in a long time, I felt confident. But this wasn't just about getting healthy. This was about revenge. And I wasn't done yet. The family reunion was set for mid-December at our Aunt Marnie's house, the big old farmhouse where most of our family gatherings happened. I had been waiting for this day like it was Christmas morning, and in a way, it was. I'd worked my ass off for 6 months, not just to hit the goal Cyrus set for me, but to surpass it. By the time the reunion rolled around, I'd lost 35 pounds, and I was in the best shape of my adult life. I wasn't just thinner, I was stronger, more confident, and ready to settle the score. But I wasn't going to brag or make a big announcement. No, I wanted Cyrus to see it for himself, to feel the sting of realizing he'd underestimated me. And I wanted to deliver my revenge in a way he'd never forget. The reunion was already in full swing by the time I arrived. The smell of roasted turkey and baked ham filled the air, and the sound of laughter and chatter spilled out onto the front porch. I walked in wearing a fitted sweater that showed off my progress, not tight, but just enough for people to notice. And boy, did they notice. The first person to say something was my cousin Danny. "Lyndon, oh my God, you look amazing. What's your secret?" "Just hard work," I said with a shrug, playing it cool. But inside, I was beaming. As the evening went on, more and more people commented on my weight loss. My mom even teared up and said, "I'm so proud of you, honey." It felt good, but I was still waiting for the moment I'd been dreaming about, the moment Cyrus would see me. And then he walked in. Cyrus had arrived late, as usual, making his typical grand entrance with a booming, "Hey, everyone. Sorry I'm late." He was wearing one of his usual button-down shirts, but this time, it was straining a little at the seams. He'd definitely gained weight since the summer, and the irony wasn't lost on me. I watched his eyes scan the room, landing on me. For a moment, his face froze. Then he plastered on a fake smile and walked over. "Lyndon," he said, clapping me on the back. "Looking good, little brother. Did you actually stick to that bet?" "I did," I said, smiling. "And then some. I'm down 35 pounds. The room went quiet. All eyes were on us. Cyrus's smile faltered for just a second, but he quickly recovered. "Well, good for you," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Guess you finally found some willpower." "Guess I did," I said, keeping my voice even. "So, about that $500. Cyrus laughed, but it sounded forced. "Oh, come on, Lyndon. We were just joking around. You don't actually expect me to pay, do you?" "Oh, I expect you to pay," I said, louder this time so everyone could hear. "A bet's a bet, Cyrus. Or do you only play fair when you're winning?" The room went dead silent. Cyrus looked around, realizing he had no way out of this. Finally, he sighed and pulled out his wallet. "Fine," he muttered, pulling out 5 crisp $100 bills and slapping them into my hand. "There. Happy now?" "Not quite," I said, grinning. "I think we should make it official." I turned to the rest of the family. "Hey, everyone. Just wanted to let you all know that I won the bet Cyrus made back in July. He said I couldn't lose 20 pounds, and I lost 35. And now he's paying up." The room erupted in cheers and laughter. My mom started clapping, and soon everyone else joined in. Cyrus's face turned bright red. He looked like he wanted to crawl under the table, but I wasn't done. "And Cyrus," I said, lowering my voice so only he could hear, "you might want to lay off the beer and nachos. Looks like you're heading the other direction." He glared at me, his jaw tightening, but he didn't say a word. Instead, he grabbed his coat and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. For a moment, I felt a twinge of guilt. But then I remembered all the times he'd humiliated me, all the snide comments, all the smug looks, and the guilt disappeared. This wasn't just about the weight. This was about standing up for myself, about showing Cyrus, and everyone else, that I wasn't the weak, lazy little brother he thought I was. That night, as I sat with the family and enjoyed my first slice of pie in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, pride. Not just in my weight loss, but in finally putting Cyrus in his place. For once, I was the one who came out on top, and it felt damn good.